The Art of Self-Compassion, A Guide to Gentle Growth. Part 1. The Foundations of Kindness. Introduction. The Invitation to Soften. The Cult of the Grind. We live in a civilization that has weaponized the concept of growth. From the moment you entered the school system, you were taught a very specific formula for success: dissatisfaction plus force equals improvement. You were taught that if you want to get better grades, you must anxiety-induce yourself into studying. If you want to lose weight, you must hate your body into the gym. If you want to advance in your career, you must sacrifice your sleep, your peace, and your nervous system on the altar of productivity. We carry a whip in one hand and a checklist in the other, operating under the silent belief that if we are just hard enough on ourselves, if we are just cruel enough, we will finally become the people we want to be. But I want you to look around. Does it work? If self-criticism were truly the key to success, we would be a planet of perfect, self-actualized, happy human beings. Instead, we are witnessing a global epidemic of burnout. We are tired. We are anxious. We are stuck in cycles of striving and crashing, paralyzed by a pervasive fear that no matter what we achieve, we are simply not enough. The Garden versus the War Zone. The Art of Self-Compassion is a guide to dismantling this outdated operating system. It is an invitation to put down the whip. It is a guide to a radical, counterintuitive truth that neuroscience is finally catching up to. You cannot hate yourself into a better version of yourself. Growth, true, sustainable, flourishing growth, does not happen in a war zone. It happens in a garden. Think of a tomato plant. If a plant is wilting, do you scream at it? Do you deprive it of water to teach it a lesson? Do you stand over it and list all the ways it is failing compared to the neighbor's garden? No, you check the soil, you adjust the light, you give it nutrients. You assume that if the plant isn't growing, the environment is lacking, not the plant's inherent worth. You are an organic being, not a machine. You require the sunlight of awareness and the water of kindness. This book is about gentle growth, the concept that we expand best when we feel safe, supported, and understood. Over the next 20 chapters, we will not just talk about being nice. We are going to rebuild your internal architecture. We will use the latest research in neuroplasticity, attachment theory, and emotional regulation to turn your inner critic into an inner coach. Welcome to the art of being on your own side. Chapter 1. The Mirror of Kindness, the Double Standard. I want you to run a mental simulation. Imagine your closest friend, someone you love deeply, comes to your door late at night. They are trembling. They have tears in their eyes. They sit on your couch and confess that they have just made a massive mistake. Maybe they failed an important exam. Maybe they lost their job due to an oversight. Maybe they said something regretful to their partner. They look at the floor and whisper, "I'm such a total failure. I'm useless. I should just give up. I'm embarrassed to even be alive." Now, pause. What do you say to them? Do you lean in, look them in the eye, and say, "You know what? You're right. You really are stupid. I've been thinking that for years. You'll never amount to anything, so you might as well quit now." The very thought is absurd. It's cruel. If you spoke to your friends the way you speak to yourself, you would have no friends left. In that moment with your friend, your heart softens. You instinctively tap into a warmth. You would likely put a hand on their shoulder. You would say, "I know this hurts right now, but listen to me. One mistake doesn't define you. You are human. You are brilliant and capable, and we will figure this out together." Now, the million-dollar question: why is this voice available for everyone else, but unavailable for the person in the mirror? Defining the terms. Most people resist self-compassion because they misunderstand what it is. They confuse it with self-pity, self-indulgence, or narcissism. Let's clear the slate. Self-compassion is not self-esteem. Self-esteem is a judgment. It is based on value. To have high self-esteem, You have to be good at something. You have to be above average. This creates a trap. To feel good about yourself, you need to be better than others. It is fragile, because the moment you fail, your self-esteem crashes. Self-compassion is not a judgment, it is a way of relating to yourself. It is a safety net that catches you when your self-esteem falls. It is simply treating yourself with the same care, concern, and support you would offer a loved one who is struggling. Dr. Kristin Neff, the pioneering researcher who brought this concept into academic psychology, breaks it down into 3 distinct components. We will return to these constantly. Mindfulness, this is the notice. You cannot heal what you cannot feel. It is acknowledging, wow, I am really hurting right now, rather than suppressing it or exploding. Common humanity. This is the connection. It is realizing that suffering, failure, and inadequacy are part of the shared human experience. You are not a broken anomaly, you are a human being. Self-kindness. This is the action. It is actively soothing yourself, physically or mentally, rather than judging yourself. Case study. The executive's dilemma. Consider Mark, a high-level marketing executive. Mark missed a critical deadline that cost his firm a client. The self-critic approach. Mark stays up until 3 a.m., drinking whiskey, replaying the email in his head. He tells himself, "You're an idiot. You're losing your edge. Everyone knows you're a fraud." The next day, he is exhausted, defensive, and makes more mistakes because his brain is fried. The self-compassionate approach. Mark feels the sting of failure. He acknowledges it mindfulness. He reminds himself, every leader in this firm has lost a client. It is a rite of passage, not a death sentence, common humanity. He asks, what do I need so I can fix this tomorrow? He goes to bed early, gets rest, and wakes up with a clear head to write a recovery plan. Self-kindness. Which version of Mark is better for the company? Which version is better for Mark? The practice. The compassionate pause. For the next 24 hours, I want you to try one simple thing. Whenever you catch yourself thinking something negative about yourself, stop. Place your hand over your heart. This physical touch lowers cortisol. Say, this is a moment of struggle. Struggle is part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. Chapter 2. The Science of Safety. The biological imperative. We often think of self-compassion as a soft skill, a matter of philosophy or sentiment. But in reality, it is deeply rooted in hard biology. To understand why self-compassion works, and why self-criticism is so destructive, we have to look at the brain's evolution. Your brain has a primary directive: keep you alive. To do this, it utilizes a threat defense system, primarily mediated by the amygdala. When our ancestors heard a rustle in the bushes, their brains didn't pause to analyze. They immediately triggered the sympathetic nervous system: fight, flight, or freeze. Adrenaline floods the blood to fuel muscles. Cortisol spikes to manage stress. Tunnel vision occurs to focus on the threat. The prefrontal cortex, the logic, learning, and empathy center, goes offline to save energy for running. The lion in the living room. Here is the glitch in our evolutionary software. Your brain does not distinguish between an external threat, a lion, and an internal threat, your own harsh inner critic. When you say to yourself, "I'm such a failure, I'm going to lose my job, I'm worthless," your amygdala reacts exactly as if a tiger has entered the room. You are attacking yourself. Think about the insanity of this. You are becoming both the attacker and the victim. This state of chronic self-criticism keeps your body in a constant state of inflammation and stress. You cannot learn, because your prefrontal cortex is offline. You cannot be creative, because creativity requires safety, not defense. You become depressed, because your system eventually collapses under the weight of constant adrenaline. This is why tough love backfires. By screaming at yourself to do better, you are chemically disabling the very part of your brain needed to improve. You are pressing the gas and the brakes at the same time. The mammalian caregiving system. Fortunately, we have another system. Unlike reptiles, mammals are born helpless. We survive only because our parents care for us. Because of this, our brains evolved to respond powerfully to warmth, gentle touch, and soothing vocal tones. This is the parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest. When we feel safe and cared for, our bodies release oxytocin, the hormone of bonding and safety, and natural opiates. Oxytocin reduces fear and anxiety. It increases feelings of trust. Crucially, it re-engages the prefrontal cortex. When you practice self-compassion, you are not just thinking happy thoughts. You are manually hacking your nervous system. You are engaging the mammalian caregiving system. By speaking kindly to yourself, you are telling your biology, you are safe. The tiger is gone. You can relax now. Why? Gentle growth is faster. Imagine two runners. Runner A is being chased by a pack of wolves. Threat system. They run fast, yes. But they are panicked. Their form is sloppy. They make bad decisions, and they will eventually collapse or injure themselves. Runner B is running toward a finish line where their loved ones are cheering. Caregiving reward system. They are energized, focused, and sustainable. Self-compassion is the fuel for Runner B. It creates a neurobiological environment where growth is not just possible, but inevitable. Chapter 3. The 3 Pillars Deep Dive. In Chapter 1, we introduced Neff's 3 pillars. Now, we must master them. These are the tools you will carry in your pocket for the rest of your life. Pillar 1. Mindfulness, the gap. Key concept. Awareness versus over-identification. You are often merged with your emotions. When you feel angry, you become the anger. You say, "I am angry." Mindfulness creates a gap. It changes the sentence to, "I am feeling anger." Why does this matter? Because you cannot navigate a storm if you are the storm. Mindfulness allows you to be the pilot flying through the storm. The trap of suppression. Many of us try to ignore our pain. We use the stiff upper lip. We drink, we scroll, we work harder. This is suppression. But psychologists know that what you resist persists. The trap of over-identification. This is when we ruminate. We dive into the story. Why is this happening? It's always going to be like this. This is drowning. Mindfulness is the middle path. It observes the pain with curiosity, like a scientist looking at a specimen. My chest is tight. My thoughts are racing. This is a moment of anxiety. Just naming the emotion calms the amygdala, a process called affect labeling. Pillar 2. Common humanity, the connection. Key concept. Connection versus isolation. When we suffer, our ego plays a nasty trick on us. It tells us, "You are the only one struggling with this. Everyone else has their marriage figured out except me. Everyone else is succeeding in their career except me." This is the lie of isolation. It makes the suffering exponentially worse by adding loneliness to the pain. Common humanity is the wisdom that realizing suffering is not an anomaly, it is the default variable of the equation of life. To be human is to be imperfect. To be human is to fail. The "just like me" practice. Next time you are stuck in traffic and feeling rage, look at the driver next to you. Think, "Just like me, this person wants to get home. Just like me, they are frustrated. Just like me, they have people they love." This dissolves the isolation. It reminds you that you are part of the vast, messy tribe of humanity. Pillar 3. Self-kindness, the action. Key concept. Benevolence versus judgment. If mindfulness says, "I am hurting," and common humanity says, "It's normal to hurt," self-kindness asks, "What do I need right now?" This is where we move from theory to practice. Self-kindness involves active soothing. Emotional kindness. changing your internal dialogue from a judge to a friend. Physical kindness. Taking a nap, drinking water, taking a walk, or using supportive touch. Scenario. You wake up with a migraine on a busy workday. Judgment. I can't believe this. I'm so weak. I have to push through. Kindness. My body is asking for rest. I will take my medication, cancel non-essential meetings, and dim the lights. I will catch up when I am well. Chapter 4. Unmasking the Inner Critic. Who is speaking? We all have a voice in our heads. For many of us, it is a running commentary that judges our every move. It says things like, "You sounded stupid in that meeting, you shouldn't have eaten that," or, "They're only being nice to you out of pity." We often assume this voice is the truth. We assume it is our conscience. But in reality, the inner critic is an internalized echo. To disarm the critic, we must first unmask it. Close your eyes and listen to the tone of that voice. Does it sound like a parent? A strict father or a critical mother who believed that shame was a teaching tool? Does it sound like a society? The voice of magazines and social media telling you that you aren't thin enough, rich enough, or productive enough? Does it sound like a scared child? Surprisingly, the critic is often a younger version of you trying to protect you. The protective child theory. Imagine you were bullied in 3rd grade for raising your hand and getting the answer wrong. Your brain registered a trauma. Speaking up equals pain. Now, as an adult, when you go to speak up in a meeting, your inner critic screams, "Shut up." You'll sound like an idiot. It isn't trying to hurt you. It is trying to save you from the pain of 3rd grade. It is a misguided protector. Exercise. Naming the critic. You cannot fight a ghost. You must make it concrete. I want you to give your inner critic a persona. Make it ridiculous. Is it a grumbling old man named Old Man Jenkins? Is it a mean high school, cool girl, named Regina? Is it a drill sergeant? When the voice starts spiraling, you can say, "Oh, hi Regina. I see you're freaking out about this email. Thanks for your input, but I'm handling this." This creates cognitive diffusion. It separates your identity from your thoughts. You are not the thought. You are the one observing the thought. The critic's motivation. It is crucial to understand that you cannot simply kill the critic. If you try to fight it, you are just adding more aggression to your system. Instead, we treat the critic like a panicked passenger in the car. I know you're scared we're going to crash. But I'm driving. You can sit in the back, but you can't touch the steering wheel. Chapter 5. The Myth of Tough Love. Fear versus love as motivation. We have arrived at the single biggest barrier to self-compassion. The fear of laziness. You are terrified that if you put down the whip, you will stop moving. You believe that self-criticism is the only thing keeping you on the treadmill, getting good grades, or maintaining your career. You think, if I'm kind to myself, I'll just lose my edge. This is the myth of tough love, and science proves it is dead wrong. Let's look at the psychology of motivation. There are 2 types. Fear-based motivation, the stick, "If I don't do this, I am a piece of garbage." Result. This works for short bursts, but it creates high anxiety. Eventually, the brain associates the task with pain. This leads to procrastination. Procrastination is not laziness, it is an emotional regulation problem. You avoid the work because the work makes you feel bad about yourself. Care-based motivation, the carrot, "I want to do this because I care about myself and my future." Result. This creates sustainable dopamine. The research. Compassion increases accountability. Dr. Fuchsia Saroy at the University of Sheffield has studied this extensively. Her research shows that self-compassionate people are actually less likely to procrastinate. Why? Because they aren't afraid of the negative emotions associated with the task. Furthermore, researchers at UC Berkeley found that when people were given a self-compassionate message after failing a test, They spent more time studying for the next test than those who were criticized. The criticized group felt defeated and avoided the material. The compassionate group felt safe enough to look at their mistakes, learn from them, and try again. The good enough standard. Tough love demands perfection. Self-compassion demands health. The irony is that the lazy behavior we fear, binge watching TV, giving up, checking out, is usually a reaction to burnout. It is the collapse that happens after the tough love has drained your battery. When you practice self-compassion, you aren't lowering your standards. You are simply changing the fuel source. You are moving from the dirty fuel of shame, which clogs the engine, to the clean fuel of encouragement. Action plan. The motivation shift. Think of a task you are avoiding. Old way. You're so lazy, just do it, you slob. Result. Anxiety, avoidance. New way. I know this task feels heavy and boring. It makes sense you don't want to do it. But doing this is an act of kindness to my future self. Let's just do 5 minutes, and then we can stop. Gentle growth is the understanding that oak trees do not grow by being screamed at. They grow by being watered. Part 2. Navigating the inner landscape. Chapter 6. Making friends with feelings. The vocabulary of the heart. What if I told you that the reason you feel overwhelmed by your emotions isn't because they are too big, but because your vocabulary for them is too small? Most people operate with a primary color palette of emotions: happy, sad, mad, and scared. When a complex feeling hits, a mix of betrayal, exhaustion, and insecurity, their brain panics because it cannot categorize the data. Neuroscience calls this affect labeling. When you cannot name a feeling, your amygdala, the threat detection center, goes into overdrive. You feel out of control because you are flying blind. But here is the game changer: emotional granularity. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, a distinguished neuroscientist and author of How Emotions Are Made, has discovered that people who can distinguish between fine-grained emotions, e.g., knowing the difference between disappointed, frustrated, and disheartened, are significantly more resilient to stress. They don't just feel bad, they know exactly how they feel, which tells them exactly what to do. If you are angry, you need to set a boundary. If you are disappointed, you need to adjust expectations. If you are lonely, you need to seek connection. The practice. Name it to tame it. Dr. Dan Siegel coined this phrase. When you feel a surge of intensity, pause and try to pin the butterfly of emotion to the board with a specific label. Instead of, I am stressed, try, I am feeling a combination of time scarcity and performance anxiety. Watch what happens to your shoulders. They will drop. Your prefrontal cortex has just come back online. The 90-second rule. We are often terrified that if we let ourselves feel a negative emotion, we will fall into a black hole and never come out. We think sadness is a bottomless pit. But neuroanatomist Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor offers a liberating biological fact. The physiological lifespan of an emotion is only 90 seconds. When you get triggered, there is a chemical surge, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, that flushes through your bloodstream. It hits like a wave. But like any wave, it has a crest and a crash. If you do not feed the emotion with a story, ruminating, blaming, predicting doom, the chemicals will flush out of your system in a minute and a half. Everything you feel after those 90 seconds is a result of you choosing to re-stimulate the circuit with your thoughts. The surfing technique. Next time a wave of shame or anxiety hits, stop. Do not try to fix it. Observe. Say, I am noticing a physiological wave. My heart is racing. My stomach is tight. Wait. Watch the second hand on a clock. Breathe through the 90 seconds. Release. Feel the intensity subside. You are not the wave. You are the ocean. Chapter 7. The Perfectionism Trap. The dopamine error. Perfectionism is not a pursuit of excellence. Let me repeat that because it is the lie that keeps you exhausted. Perfectionism is not the pursuit of excellence. It is the avoidance of shame. You believe that if you look perfect, work perfect, and live perfect, you can avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and rejection. But this is a biological trap. When you chase perfection, you are running on a dopamine error. You attach your reward system to an outcome that is statistically impossible to maintain. You tell your brain, I will only release the feel-good chemicals when I make 0 mistakes. Since 0 mistakes are impossible for humans, you are starving your brain of satisfaction. You live in a chronic state of not an honest. You are hiking up a mountain where the summit keeps moving further away. The B- standard. To break this, we must re-engineer your reward system. We are going to aim for good enough. In the tech world, they call this the MVP, minimum viable product. You launch, you learn, you iterate. The compassionate grower allows themselves to fail early and often. The perfectionist is terrified of the rough draft, so they procrastinate. The compassionate grower knows the rough draft is the only way to get to the final masterpiece. Exercise. The lowered bar. Select one area of your life where you are currently over-functioning, e.g., cleaning the house, writing emails, planning a party. Deliberately decide to do B- work this week. Don't proofread the email 3 times, send it after 1. Don't clean the baseboards before the guests arrive, just wipe the counter. You will be shocked to discover 2 things. Nobody notices. Your B- is usually everyone else's A+. Adaptive versus maladaptive perfectionism. Not all striving is bad. Adaptive perfectionism, high standards, I want to do this well because I enjoy mastery. Focus. Growth. Maladaptive perfectionism, self-critical, I must do this perfectly or I am worthless. Focus. Fear. Gentle growth embraces high standards but divorces them from your self-worth. You can want to win the gold medal, but you must know that you are still worthy of love if you come in last. Chapter 8. Imposter Syndrome and Worthiness. The Fraud Police. There is a silent epidemic among high achievers. You walk into a room, a boardroom, a classroom, a party, and you think, they are all smarter than me. They all belong here. It is only a matter of time before they find out I'm a fraud. This is imposter syndrome, and paradoxically, it acts as proof of your competence. The Dunning-Kruger effect shows that incompetent people usually overestimate their abilities. They think they are amazing because they don't know enough to know what they don't know. If you feel like an imposter, it is usually because you are pushing the boundaries of your comfort zone. You are stretching. Confidence versus competence. You are trying to solve imposter syndrome by accumulating more achievements. You think, if I just get one more degree, one more promotion, one more award, then I will feel legitimate. But you cannot achieve your way out of imposter syndrome. The hole you are trying to fill isn't in your resume, it is in your nervous system. You are confusing competence with confidence. Competence is, I have the skills to do this task. Confidence is, I will be okay even if I fail at this task. Self-compassion builds confidence. It tells you that your worth is an axiomatic truth, not a stock market price that fluctuates with your performance. When you detach your worth from your work, you become fearless. You can take risks, speak up, and lead, because the worst-case scenario, failure, is no longer a death sentence for your identity. The comparison trap. In the age of social media, imposter syndrome is fueled by compare and despair. Remember, you are comparing your insides, your fears, doubts, and messy mornings with everyone else's outsides, their curated, filtered, award-winning highlights. It is a rigged game. The data is corrupted. Mantra for the imposter. I am not here to be perfect. I am here to be helpful. I am here to learn. When you shift from, how do I look, to, how can I help, the anxiety evaporates. Chapter 9. The Art of Self-Forgiveness. The Heavy Backpack. We often hold on to guilt because we think it makes us good people. We believe that if we punish ourselves enough for a past mistake, we have paid our debt to the universe. We carry a backpack of rocks called my past sins. But neuroscience shows that shame inhibits the brain's ability to learn. When you are busy beating yourself up, you aren't actually processing the lesson. You are just re-traumatizing yourself. You are burning energy on self-flagellation that could be used for restitution and growth. Guilt versus shame. Guilt. I did something bad. Focus on behavior. Result. Reparation. Shame. I am bad. Focus on self. Result. Hiding. Withdrawal. Guilt is a useful signal. It tells you you violated your own values. Shame is a toxic waste product. The clean slate protocol. True forgiveness is not condoning the behavior. It is releasing the heavy cognitive load of the past so you can operate efficiently in the present. Step 1. Ownership. Say, I did that. It caused harm. I take responsibility. No excuses. Step 2. Grieve. Allow yourself to feel the sadness of the mistake without spiraling into, I am a monster. Step 3. Repair. If you can fix it, fix it. Apologize. Pay the money. Do the work. Step 4. The pivot. This is the crucial step. Say to yourself, I cannot change the past. Punishing myself today will not fix yesterday. I am now a person who has learned this lesson. The visualization. Imagine yourself carrying a heavy rock representing your mistake. Imagine handing that rock to your future self. Your future self takes it, turns it into a stepping stone, and stands on it to reach higher. The mistake is no longer a burden, it is now part of your foundation. Chapter 10. Healing the timeline. Emotional time travel. Your inner critic was often installed during childhood. It mimics the voice of a parent, a teacher, or a bully. When you spiral into self-hatred today, you are often engaging in emotional time travel. You are a 40-year-old adult reacting to a missed email with the terror of a 7-year-old who just broke a vase. Your nervous system has regressed. You feel small, helpless, and in danger. To heal this, we must engage in reparenting. Memory reconsolidation. The brain is capable of rewriting emotional memories. This is called memory reconsolidation. You can revisit a memory of a time you felt small or ashamed, and from your current, adult perspective, offer that younger version of yourself the compassion they didn't get at the time. Exercise. The safe place. Close your eyes. Picture yourself at the age where you felt the most vulnerable, maybe 6, 12, or 15. Imagine your current, adult self walking into the room where that child is. Sit down next to them. Look them in the eyes. Ask them, what do you need to hear right now? Do they need to hear, it's not your fault? Do they need to hear, you are good? Imagine hugging them. Feel the safety transfer from you to them. By doing this, you are actually rewiring the neural association with that memory. You are changing the story from one of abandonment to one of rescue. Integrating the shadow. Gentle growth is not just about loving the good parts of you, the productive, nice, successful parts. It is about loving the shadow. The shadow contains the parts you are ashamed of. Your anger, your laziness, your jealousy, your neediness. If you reject your shadow, it controls you from the basement. If you invite it up for tea, it loses its power. Say, I see my jealousy. Welcome. You are just a part of me that is hungry for connection. I see my laziness. Welcome. You are just a part of me that is trying to prevent burnout. When you stop fighting yourself, you liberate a massive amount of energy that was previously tied up in the civil war of your mind. You become whole. The Art of Self-Compassion. A Guide to Gentle Growth Part 3. Compassion in Action Chapter 11. Body kindness. Your physiology is listening, the hardware of happiness. We tend to view our bodies as vehicles. We treat them like rental cars we are trying to drive into the ground. ignoring the check engine light, skipping maintenance, and fueling them with garbage, all while screaming at the dashboard to go faster. But your body is not a vehicle for your head to drive around. It is the hardware that runs your entire life. It is the biological substrate of every thought, feeling, and ambition you have. Here is the biological reality. Every thought you think releases a chemical shower. When you look in the mirror and think, "I am disgusting," or "I hate my thighs," your brain does not just keep that as a private thought. It translates that thought into a biological signal. It releases cortisol, the stress hormone. It tightens your fascia. It suppresses your immune system. You are literally attacking your own cellular structure. You cannot hate your body into health. You cannot shame your body into performance. Interoception. The lost sense. Compassion begins with a biological skill called interoception. We all know the 5 external senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. But interoception is the sense of the internal state of the body. It is your ability to feel your heartbeat, your hunger, your fatigue, and your tension. In a culture of burnout, we are taught to numb our interoception. We drink coffee to mask the signal of fatigue. We scroll on our phones to mask the signal of anxiety. We work through lunch to mask the signal of hunger. Gentle growth requires re-establishing the connection. It requires asking your body, "What do you need to support me today?" The partnership model. Stop acting like a slave driver to your body. Start acting like a partner. If your business partner said, "I am exhausted, my back hurts, and I need water," would you say, "Shut up and keep typing"? No, you would say, "Take a break. We need you at your best." Practice. The appreciation audit. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to thank 3 specific parts of your body, not for how they look, but for what they do. Thank you, lungs, for breathing for me all day without me having to ask. Thank you, legs, for carrying me up those stairs. Thank you, immune system, for fighting off invisible bacteria. Shift the focus from aesthetics, how I appear, to function, what I can do. Chapter 12. Boundaries as an ACT of love, the doormat myth. There is a dangerous misconception that compassion means niceness. We think that to be compassionate, we must always say yes, always be available, and always put others first. This is dead wrong. Compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. If you give away all your energy, time, and resources, you will burn out. And a burnt-out person cannot be compassionate. They become resentful. They become bitter. They eventually snap. Dr. Brené Brown's research found a shocking correlation. The most compassionate people are also the most boundary-conscious people. Why? Because they preserve their energy so they can give from a place of abundance, not a place of depletion. The velvet rope. Think of your energy like an exclusive VIP club. Inside the club is your peace, your mental health, and your joy. Outside the club is the noise of the world, the demands of others, and the drama. You are the bouncer. Setting a boundary, saying, "No, I can't do that," is the velvet rope. It is not an act of aggression. It is an act of preservation. When you set a boundary, you might feel guilt. That is normal. That is just your social conditioning, trying to keep you compliant. Feel the guilt, and set the boundary anyway. The comfortable number. We often say yes because we don't know how to say no without sounding mean. Here is a script for the compassionate number. The request: "Can you join this committee, help me move, take on this extra project?" The compassionate no: "Thank you so much for thinking of me. I have to say no right now to honor my other commitments. I hope you find someone great for it." Notice: no over-explaining. No lying. Just a clear, kind refusal. By saying no to them, you are saying yes to yourself. Chapter 13. Compassionate productivity hustle culture versus biological rhythm. The modern world runs on hustle culture. The belief that you must grind until you break. The belief that sleep is for the weak. But look at nature. Nothing in nature blooms all year. There are seasons of growth and seasons of rest. Even your heart rests after every single beat. The science of ultradian rhythms. Your body does not run on a flat line. It runs in cycles. Specifically, ultradian rhythms. Every 90 to 120 minutes, your brain's ability to focus drops. You need a reset. If you push through the trough of the cycle with caffeine and willpower, you are producing garbage time. You are working, but your cognitive capacity is at 40%. Compassionate productivity means working in pulses. Sprint, then recover. Sprint, then recover. The default mode network, DMN. Neuroscience shows that when you are doing nothing, staring out a window, walking the dog, washing dishes, a specific network in your brain activates, the default mode network. This is where creativity, problem solving, and identity consolidation happen. If you are constantly grinding, constantly inputting data, constantly listening to podcasts, your DMN never turns on. You lose the big picture. The do nothing protocol. You must schedule white space into your day. Take a 10-minute walk without your phone. Sit in your car for 5 minutes before going into the house. Let your mind wander. You are not being lazy. You are allowing your brain to file the data. Chapter 14. Social comparison and the algorithm, the scarcity circuit. We are the first generation in history to have a device in our pocket that shows us the highlight reels of 4 billion other people. Your brain is not designed for this. Evolutionary mismatch theory suggests our brains evolved to compare ourselves to our tribe of about 150 people. In the tribe, you might be the best runner, or the second best cook. You had a place. On Instagram, you are comparing your body to the fittest models on earth, your bank account to billionaires, and your happiness to influencers on vacation. This triggers the scarcity circuit. You constantly feel you are falling behind. You feel that you are less than. The highlight reel versus the cutting room floor. Remember the golden rule of the internet. You are comparing your behind the scenes footage with everyone else's trailer. You see their smiling family photo. You don't see the screaming match that happened 5 minutes prior. You see their promotion. You don't see their insomnia. It is a rigged game. The data is corrupted, curating your feed. The most compassionate thing you can do for your nervous system is to curate your input. The unfollow purge. Open your social media right now. Scroll through the first 10 posts. Check your body's reaction, interoception. Does this post make me feel inspired, connected? Keep. Does this post make me feel anxious, inadequate, jealous? Unfollow, mute. You are the curator of your own museum. Stop hanging art on the walls that makes you feel ugly. Chapter 15. Relationships and intimacy. The mirror neuron effect. You cannot be fully self-compassionate in isolation. We are social mammals. We possess mirror neurons that allow us to catch the emotions of others. If you surround yourself with critical, judgmental, cynical people, your inner voice will become critical, judgmental, and cynical. This is called emotional contagion. Conversely, if you surround yourself with people who practice grace, forgiveness, and kindness, you will catch those traits. Audit your circle. Who are the people who make your nervous system feel safe? Anchors. Who are the people who keep you in fight or flight? Stressors. You must prioritize time with the anchors. You can't give what you don't have. Many people say, I am hard on myself, but I am so kind to others. I challenge that. If you are judging yourself for being lazy when you rest, you are subconsciously judging others when they rest. You might be acting nice, but internally you are thinking, must be nice to have that much free time. True compassion for others starts with the self. When you forgive yourself for your flaws, you become infinitely more tolerant of your partner's flaws. When you accept your own messy humanity, You stop demanding perfection from your children. Co-regulation. The ultimate goal of relationships is company regulation. This is when two nervous systems interact and calm each other down. By practicing self-compassion, you become a safe harbor for others. Your calm becomes contagious. When you are gentle with yourself, you become a soft place for the people you love to land. Part 4. Sustaining Gentle Growth. Chapter 16. Resilience in Crisis. Bouncing forward, not back. We often define resilience as bouncing back. We use the metaphor of a rubber band. It stretches under stress and then snaps back to its original shape. But this metaphor is flawed. When you go through a crisis, a divorce, a death, a layoff, a health scare, you do not go back to your original shape. You are changed. The experience marks you. True resilience is not bouncing back, it is bouncing forward. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth PTG. PTG is the phenomenon where people who endure a crisis eventually report a greater appreciation for life, deeper relationships, and increased personal strength. But here is the critical variable. Growth only happens if you process the pain. If you criticize yourself during the crisis, "I shouldn't be so sad, I should be over this by now," you arrest the growth. You get stuck in the trauma. The compassionate safety net. Think of a trapeze artist. They can perform death-defying flips only because they know there is a net below them. If you remove the net, they will freeze. They will cling to the bar. Self-compassion is your emotional safety net. When you know that you will be kind to yourself even if you fall, you are free to take the leap. The critic says, "Don't mess this up, or I will make you pay for it forever." Result: fear, hesitation. The ally says, "Go for it. If you fall, I will be there to catch you, brush you off, and help you try again." Result: courage, the crisis protocol. When you are in the middle of the fire, stop trying to learn the lesson. You don't learn fire safety while you are burning. You just need to survive. Lower the bar. Survival mode means basic needs only. Eat, sleep, breathe. Radical self-validation. Say, "It makes total sense that I am falling apart right now. This is a devastating event. I am allowed to be a mess." Seek the tribe. Do not isolate. Let others hold the hope for you until you can hold it yourself. Chapter 17. The Practice of Gratitude. Rewiring the ROS, the brain's search engine. Your brain receives millions of bits of data every second. It cannot process it all, or you would go insane. So, it uses a filter called the Reticular Activating System, ROS. The ROS acts like the search bar in your browser. It looks for evidence to support your beliefs. If you believe, "The world is hostile and I am unlucky," your ROS will filter out the kind stranger and highlight the rude driver. It says, "See, I told you." If you believe, "There is goodness in the world," your ROS will highlight the sunset and filter out the traffic noise. Gratitude is not just being thankful. It is a manual reprogramming of the RAS. When you practice gratitude, you are typing a new search query into your brain. You are telling the ROS, "Scan for safety. Scan for connection. Scan for beauty." The "but" technique. The biggest obstacle to gratitude is the negative bias. Our brains are Velcro for bad experiences and Teflon for good ones. To counter this, use the compassionate conjunction. When a negative thought arises, do not fight it. Acknowledge it, but add a "but." Negative thought: "I really messed up that presentation today." The but I handled the Q&A section really well, and I learned exactly what to fix for next time." Negative thought: "My body feels so heavy and slow today." The but I am grateful it is allowing me to rest so I can recover." This simple conjunction physically rewires the neural pathway from a dead end of despair to a bridge of possibility. Chapter 18. Joy is a Discipline. Foreboding joy. Dr. Brené Brown describes a phenomenon called foreboding joy. It is that moment when you are standing over your sleeping child, or laughing with friends, or enjoying a perfect meal, and suddenly, bam! You think, something bad is going to happen. This is too good to be true. It won't last. We sabotage our joy because joy makes us feel vulnerable. We think that if we stay numb, we won't be hurt when the other shoe drops. We rehearse tragedy to protect ourselves. But rehearsing tragedy does not make the tragedy less painful. It only robs you of the joy you have right now. The broaden and build theory. Joy is not a luxury, it is a biological nutrient. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory proves that positive emotions literally expand your peripheral vision and cognitive flexibility. Fear narrows your focus to survive the threat. Joy broadens your focus to see new possibilities and build resources. The practice. Savoring. You must discipline yourself to tolerate joy. When a moment of happiness comes, do not rush past it. The 20-second rule. When something good happens, a compliment, a delicious bite of food, a warm breeze, stop. Let it land in your body for 20 seconds. Feel the warmth. Smile. This 20-second pause is what moves the experience from short-term memory to long-term memory. You are banking resources for the winter. Chapter 19. Creating a daily practice, your mental hygiene. Dental hygiene for the mind. You brush your teeth every single day. You don't say, I brushed them really well in 2018, so I'm good. You know that decay is a daily process, so hygiene must be a daily practice. Your mind works the same way. The world is constantly depositing plaque, stress, criticism, fear, comparison, onto your psyche. If you do not have a daily hygiene practice, you will develop mental decay. You cannot read this book once and be fixed. You must build a compassion architecture. The daily protocol. You do not need an hour of meditation. You need consistency. 1. Morning. The anchor, 2 minutes. Before you check your phone, which lets the world dictate your mood, check in with yourself. Put your hand on your heart. Say, good morning, I am on your side today. Whatever happens, we will handle it together. 2. Midday. The check-in, 1 minute. Set an alarm for 1 p.m. Label it, human check. Ask, what is my battery level? Ask, what is one small thing I need? Water, a stretch, a deep breath. 3. Evening. The good enough review, 3 minutes. The brain naturally scans for what you missed. Override it. Write down 3 things you did, not just work. I drank water, counts. Say, I did enough. I am enough. I release the rest. Consistency beats intensity. 2 minutes of self-kindness every day is better than a silent retreat once a year. Chapter 20. The Garden of the Future. The final shift. We started this book with the image of a garden. I want to leave you there. For years, perhaps decades, you have treated your mind like a factory. You demanded output. You ignored the machinery. You punished deviations. And you wondered why the factory was breaking down. Now, you are the gardener. A gardener knows that you cannot force a flower to bloom by pulling on its petals. You can only create the conditions for growth. You provide the soil, physical health. You provide the water, self-kindness. You provide the sun, awareness, mindfulness. You pull the weeds, the inner critic and toxic relationships. And then, you trust the process. The ripple effect. The work you have done in this book stops with you, but it does not end with you. When you heal your perfectionism, you show your children that it is safe to make mistakes. When you set boundaries, you teach your colleagues to respect their own time. When you practice self-compassion, you become a source of peace in a chaotic world. You are breaking generational cycles of shame. You are rewriting the genetic code of your lineage. The world will try to turn you back into concrete. It will try to harden you. It will tell you that kindness is weakness. Do not believe them. There is an unshakable core within you. It is the part of you that observes the pain without becoming the pain. It is the part of you that knows, undeniably, that you are worthy of love simply because you exist. The art of self-compassion is not a destination. It is a daily practice of coming home to yourself. It is the gentle decision, made over and over again, to drop the whip and pick up the watering can. Grow gently. You are ready.